All right, guys, so I have a treat for you. While we are still in the aftermath of the Kanye interview, holding that in the vault, revealing it to the world, and then the world sort of realizing that everything that we were told about Kanye 2 years ago, that him having a mental breakdown, that he was crazy, that he was angry, was a carefully constructed lie. The media, of course, trying to bury him with headlines because they didn't want you to hear what he was actually saying. And then when you actually heard what he had to say, thanks to this vault interview, you went, oh, that's really interesting, actually. He's making some very sound points. Here's a reality that you've probably come to if you've been watching this podcast. Virtually every person in the media that is being attacked the hardest, there is a reason that they are being attacked. There is a truth that the media is trying to obscure. And so now I think it's my duty to speak to the most canceled, quote unquote, canceled people that are out there to figure out why it is the media hates them so much. And who's hated more than the Tate brothers? I really don't think there is anyone that is arguably hated more than the Tate brothers. I think they rank higher than Ye does. So I'm going to have a conversation with both of them today. First and foremost, we are going to speak with Tristan Tate. Welcome to the Candace podcast.
Welcome. I'm very happy to be here. And this is the least pregnant I've ever seen me. So congratulations on the new arrival. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing.
It's always a new arrival. The new arrival, I'm either pregnant, still pregnant, pregnant again. So this is just the rare 8 months.
Doing your job, repopulating the earth. I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
So I've been wanting to speak to you for a very long time. Obviously, when I went out to Romania the first time and I interviewed just Andrew, but then I had such a remarkable conversation with you. And I realized that, oh gosh, I should have definitely interviewed Tristan because there's so much that he has to say. You're quite incredibly well read, first and foremost. But I want to start with just speaking about traditional masculinity. And there was this one moment that you were describing to me, really the circumstances of what it took for you to survive mentally when you and your brother were put into a prison and there were no charges against you.
No.
Can you describe, first and foremost, just remind us how long you were put into that cell, how big the cell was, and what the environment was like?
Well, Romania has a very, I guess, smart way of dealing with their prison system. What they do is instead of investing money in the prison system, they eat all the money in fines for treating prisoners badly because it's cheaper than actually constructing new prisons. So every single prison here is built during the communist regime. None of them have been upgraded. None of them are nice at all. The cell was about 4 yards by 4 yards by 3 yards. I'll use yards because I know you're an American. I like to use meters, of course, but two sets of bunk beds, tiny toilet in the corner. It's not a toilet, it's a hole in the ground, quite literally. And then there's a shower overhead that is either way too hot or way too cold. I was there for 92 days. And if I had known I'd be there for 92 days, it would have been a much easier task. However, every 2 to 3 weeks, I'd have a court hearing to see if I was there for longer, if I was going to be released and put on house arrest. So I didn't know when I was going to get out, which was, I guess, the most mentally challenging part of it. But it got a lot easier towards the end when I was put in the same cell as my brother. And then my only role, my only job, my only focus was keeping Andrew mentally focused and keeping Andrew happy and making Andrew laugh. And I didn't even care about the fact that I was in jail because I am my brother's keeper. You know, it's good to have your brother's back. So, you know, if I woke up and he was depressed or he was sad or he was angry, I didn't care about my own mental state. It was, how's Andrew doing? And that's all I really focused on.
I think that it's interesting because I just like to assess culture where most people try to attack it. And of course, when you see a movement happening, especially if it's a populist right movement, people behind Trump, they just go, it's a bunch of white supremacists that are dusting off their Klansmen cloaks.
Of course.
Yeah, they see you and Andrew. It's like, oh, it's all of these misogynist boys who just hate women and want to grow up and rape them. And that's what's happening. And of course, that's so silly and it's so stupid. And I always want to claw back and really understand what it is that people are responding to. And what you're hitting upon, and I think it's kind of one of the most remarkable things about you and Andrew is this brotherhood, that when you guys speak with each other, when you are together, it just feels like you're watching what it is, family.
Yeah.
And we have been so removed from that in society. The concept of loyalty, the concept of brotherhood, the concept of looking after your family member through everything, thick and thin. And you guys have definitely been through the thick and you stand by each other. That when you tell that story of just like, I just suddenly wanted to make sure that Andrew was okay and you're in this cell and you don't know when you're going to go out. I just think it's remarkable. I think it's people could never imagine what that challenge would be like to try to keep yourself sane while you are caught in this cell for how many hours? I mean, it's just Did they let you out in the play yard?
Play yard? Play yard? This is Romania, Candace. This very average hotel is the best hotel we have. You think the prisons have play yards? Everyone asked me that. How was the church? How was the gym? Did you get yard time? I'm like, yard time? No. You are in that room and that is it. So I was escorted to and back from the courthouse in a armored police van, and that was it. You don't leave the room. You don't ever get a chance to breathe fresh air. Gosh. First time in my life I've ever been sunburned because, I'm mixed race and I just tan. But the horrible food and the 92 days in jail when I first got out, it was springtime. That was the first time in my life I'd ever been sunburned because I hadn't had the sun shine on my face or my skin for all that time. No, you are just in that room.
There's no window.
There is a window. I still remember the view. I could probably paint a picture from memory of the exact view. I'm facing a very ugly communist era apartment block. And there's a tiny corner of a park. I drive past it sometimes to make myself feel better. Wow. I literally drive past my jail just to make myself smile.
All right, guys, it's summertime. That tends to be the time that a lot of people let go of their routines. But one routine that you should never let go of is your prayer routine, especially now with everything that's going on in the world, which is a perfect opportunity to remind you about the Hallow app, which is the #1 Christian prayer app in the world. I know that I will be continuing my daily habit of praying by using their app. And it is a great source, such a great resource for the entire family to connect more with God. So if you're looking for a place to start, Hallow is it. You can check out their new scripture series on the Gospel of John with biblical scholar Jeff Cavins and Jonathan Rumi, who portrays Jesus in The Chosen, or some new upcoming content with Jim Caviezel, who is the actor from Sound of Freedom, and of course The Passion of the Christ, which is a family favorite. Just incredible, real, true story of Christ. Using the app is such a great way to spend a few minutes every day meditating on scripture and speaking to God about what he wants for your life. Prepare your mind and heart for the chaos of this world by building your foundation of daily prayer today on Hallow. If you want to download 3 months for free, just go to hallow.com/Candace. Again, that's hallow.com/Candace for 3 months free. So the first day that you guys got out, I vividly remember the picture in the news and like the unkempt hair and like you guys are smiling, and can you just tell me what that day was like? Just hearing the news, I guess, did you go to the courthouse first and then they let you go, or how did that about, and what did you think, and how was sleeping in your own bed?
So this is the craziest thing. You have to understand that even the Romanian police officers and the Romanian prison guards knew that I was unjustly imprisoned. A lot of them, and I can't say their names because they get in trouble, but a lot of them, the high-level people in the prison would say to me, look, guys, I'm sorry you're here. This is just the way it is, And when I got the news that I was free, so you'd go to court and you'd wait for the phone call. Now Andrew was always hopeful of going home. Andrew, every single time that we were waiting for this phone call, which was 6 or 7 times over the period, Andrew would be like, oh, maybe we'll go home. What we can do, we can go home. I was just like, nope, it's a matrix attack. They're going to keep us in jail forever. We're going to be here years. And I just went to sleep. I ignored the news. So when the news came through, my lawyer told us we were going home. I literally banged on the prison door and I shouted in Romanian, I'm going home. The words are mergem acasă in Romanian. And everybody, the guards, the prisoners, everybody erupted in this massive cheer. Because everybody knew I shouldn't have been there in the first place. Everybody erupted in this massive applause. And it was it was a very, very good feeling. And sleeping in my own bed, it's one of those times. You're not a party animal like me. You've probably never been so drunk that you wake up and you don't know where you are. But I've been there. And it was one of those times where literally I woke up probably 5-10 times during the night and I didn't know where I was. It took a while to kind of adjust. I still had my prison beard, and you feel the cockroaches, the insects, everything that used to wake you up, the mosquitoes, everything that used to wake you up in jail. You feel it in your dreams or in your subconscious, and you're like, I'd shoot awake every single time. But yeah, it was very strange. I didn't know where I was. It took me 3 or 4 days of sleeping in my own bed until I realized I was actually free to walk around my house and see my friends and talk to people. It was an experience like none other. You couldn't replicate it. No matter how much money you had, no matter who you hired, you couldn't possibly replicate that feeling.
I have a theory, which came from my buddy Dave Smith, that, part of the reason that you and your brother are being so attacked is because you represent a real threat to what you guys term the Matrix.
Yes.
They managed to enslave the majority of human civilization via either banking. People have bank debts debts that are usually accrued because of education. They've enslaved their minds via the education system. And also they've enslaved them because if it ever came down to it, the majority of people wouldn't be able to fight for their freedom, quite literally fight for their freedom. And then you take a look at what you and your brother have built. And I had not even realized how successful Hustler University was. It's a full disruption to traditional education system that most kids can afford and don't need to go into six-figure debt for, because it's $49.99 for a course. And I actually hired someone not realizing they were a Hustler University graduate and they've been an incredible employee.
Yes.
And this is a person from the wrong side of the tracks who now has an opportunity and he's learning how to make money in this world. And he's not doing it because he has to first figure out how to pay all of these debts like I did with student loans. Yeah. And then you have these two brothers and they're embodying the family and they're speaking about traditional masculinity like, you know, I'll beat you in a fight. Yeah. Like just that old school, like I will beat you up in a fight. And that's not really allowed today. You can't disrupt how they're enslaving people without them essentially owning you, you know, and people thinking that it's something new, but it's really the same thing that's old. And you guys truly are free and sit outside of the bounds of their control.
It's not just the ability to fight or the will to fight. I think what me and Andrew embody that a lot of people don't quite understand is, what would you fight for? You know, a lot of people who maybe are trained, are smart, can shoot, can fight, they're not a threat because they don't have an ideology that they're willing to defend. And I think that when I say, I gave this example to your husband, who I love, by the way, quick shout out, pure bromance. I love that guy. I was talking to him earlier and I said, I'm worried right now. I'm worried, genuinely, not about these new charges and these cases. This doesn't scare me, but I'm worried they're going to hit Andrew with a charge for inciting riots. And I'm worried about how I'm going to get myself put in jail with him. I might just have to incite some riots myself if they charge him with this. I'm worried about how I can get into jail to be there with him. So it's not just the ability to fight and the ability to be masculine and to be a masculine man. It's giving people something to fight for. Your family, your ideology, your church, your religion. That's what they try and strip from everybody. Because a willingness to fight is far more scary than an ability to fight. I say this to my friends. Some of my friends are not professional fighters like me and my brother are, but my friends would be willing. If I got jumped by 50 men, they'd be willing to fight, which is a lot scarier than a man who can fight but won't. So that's what we're trying to give people, you know, a reason to defend your beliefs, a reason to stand up for yourself, a reason to say no to all the agendas pushed down our throat, a reason to see something on TV and call it out as bull in front of your family members, no matter how excommunicated you're going to get because they're all liberals. You know, we're giving people a reason to stand up. And the fact that our lives have been so successful and the fact that people in Hustlers University and people in our private networks have been so successful is now opening a lot of eyes. Like, okay, well, if I stick by my brothers, if I stick by my beliefs, if I stick by my friends, if I stand on my word, if I don't betray my morals, this is what can happen. You know, if I was a degenerate bum sleeping outside on the streets ranting, people wouldn't listen to me. So the success is also very scary for them because I'm showing young men, like the person who now works for you. He has zero student debt. He's
a hustler. It's the only way I can describe him. He just literally...
And he's fantastic at his job.
He's fantastic at his job. He learned editing skills at Hustler University for, what is it, $50?
$50 a month. So he probably spent $250 on his education.
Right.
And he's learning from the best in the world.
Right. And so, they're not going to allow that. And I do think that part of what you guys embody is what most people see as fantasy on their screens. They have this visceral response, men and women too, when you watch the movie 300. I love that movie. It's amazing. But the reality is that the majority of people wouldn't have kicked somebody down the hole and said, no, we're fighting, and looked around and said, no, we're going to war.
Yes.
We're outnumbered, right? Yeah. And we're probably going to lose. But we would rather lose and have every one of our men in our tribe killed and murdered than to subjugate to the whims of this kingdom. And I don't think people really understand what it is they love about that movie, you know?
Yes.
Because it hits at something in their spirit that they know is the way things should be. Yes. Right?
And you're certainly, you've kicked a few people down a few holes very recently, saying no names, but we all know who I'm talking about. But yeah, it's a part of being on the right side of history, as I see it. I don't see a world where maybe I lose, maybe we lose. I mean, who knows? Where it spirals into this degeneracy, this Weimar Republic of, post World War I Germany, and the whole world becomes a degenerate hole. I don't see a world where rational, sane people are going to look back on me and Andrew and our message and you, because, the internet is now forever. And people are going to be able to watch this stuff and say, these people were wrong. These people were truly evil. I don't think that you'll be able to psyop people that much. And I have, children, you have children, and I'm not going to let this world, I'm going to do the most I can. I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that I leave this world a better place for them, whether or not it puts me in jail or not. I mean, spoiler alert, I'm not a human trafficker. That doesn't make any sense.
And what's actually funny is that everything that they accuse people of doing is what they are. And this gets into, I need to do a full episode on this, but they accused Michael Jackson of pedophilia because they are the pedophiles.
They are pedophiles.
Like the media is literally an ecosystem that was built to protect pedophiles.
Yes.
Right. And once you start realizing, like we said before we got live here, that Alex Jones was right. When he started speaking about the satanic worshiping elites that are all pedophiles, I remember first hearing Alex Jones being like, this man is like
insane.
On crack.
I was in my early 20s and he's sitting there super energetic as always, ranting about these satanic pedophiles and how they're drinking the blood of children. I was like, really? Like, they're just politicians. I mean, they're not that bad.
How could that be happening?
Turns out he was completely right about everything. And I feel like what Alex Jones knows, because here's the real scary part, tip of the iceberg, right? This is what Alex Jones knows, and this is what he's waking everyone up to. And this is what we now understand, and we're trying to wake people up to. What don't we know yet? What are we going to discover in the next 10 years? What if the culture of the world changes, Trump gets in charge, a bunch of right-wing politicians take control of Europe as they should, and start digging into the files? What are we actually going to find out? That's the scary part.
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
the more that I learn about anything, I'm just like, the school system exists to make you stupid, but convince you that you're smart.
Yes.
As they're going around the world, deleting history. I think it's part of the reason why we keep plundering the Middle East, is because they want no relics of history, because that allows these Marxists, because that's who they are, to rewrite it. And the reality is that America got overtaken by Marxism. It happened in waves, like the 1848ers that came and established, Pfizer family was in that. The people who established kindergarten were in that. And then again in 1880, after they assassinated the Tsar in Russia, under the guise of pogroms. This was the excuse. Oh, all of these people just have to be allowed into America unchecked. Okay, but a huge portion of those people were the people that overthrew him and were actually psychopathic, and then went on to mass murder Christians. And then a few of those people then established the Diamond District in America. Julius Armand, like Armand Hammer's family. Armand Hammer, the actor, is named Arm and Hammer for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, it is known that his father was, or however many grandfathers, was considered Stalin and Lenin's favorite Jew. Right? Which then kind of gets into the question of the media, who for a very long time tried to convince us that Stalin and Vladimir Lenin were anti-Semitic. And then I learned, wait, Stalin was married to...
Yes, they were literally a part of the Jewish cabal that, and credit
when I talk about crushing history, where if you even say that, which I'm saying it, because I looked into it and I found a friend who understands Georgian, and they're like, everybody knows that Stalin was Jewish. And I'm like, but Americans don't know this.
But 10 days, they were the good guys. They helped us defeat Nazi Germany. They were the good guys. They were
as
on
they
our
were
team.
mass murdering Christians.
Oh, 100 million people. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. 100 million people got murdered. No. They're on our team. They're the good guys. That's what the history books say.
It's terrifying.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And then saying it gets you put in jail.
Right.
Literally.
Saying it. And you just spoke about Weimar Republic, and I would like to talk about that more extensively, because one of the things that I got attacked for, which shocked me, and then I realized that the elites are protecting pedophiles, was I spoke about Magnus Hirschfeld and how he was a full sexual pervert with pedophilic tendencies, who had weird sex objects all around the Sex Institute.
And again, tip of the iceberg. What don't we know about this man? That's the scary part. What will we never find out? What will we never find out? That's the scary part. But yeah, Weimar Republic it's how the world is going. Certainly in my lifetime. You're my age, slightly younger than me, I think. In my own lifetime, I've seen it happen. I've seen things on television, on the internet, that wouldn't have been acceptable. I remember back in the early 2000s, they would censor music videos, and they'd only play certain music videos late at night if a girl was in a bikini. I literally remember that world. And to look around today at, especially the United States, I know you live there, sorry, or the United Kingdom, my home country, it's quite frankly disgusting. And nobody seems to think it. Nobody, they did it so slowly and so gradually, and they've infected us with this virus, which has grown over time. It's infected the minds of every single person in the UK, where you don't even see it anymore. Literally, you're blind to the fact that they've destroyed your culture and destroyed a world that's safe to raise children in, which I think is one of the goals. And for anyone who doesn't know what the Weimar Republic is, I encourage you to look it up and look at what happened.
And not on Google.
Oh yeah, not on Google. No way. You got to use BitChute. You got to use all these fringe websites that, but why aren't we allowed to talk about it? Why aren't we allowed to talk about the problems?
That's the big question.
Yes.
And you realize that they have taught us World War II history like we're children.
Yes.
I mean, it's everything they've told us. Virtually everything they told us is either not true or a snippet of the truth, or omitting something that would make us question more of their narrative. And they freaked out when I shared a BBC documentary, no less, because they had tried to wipe this from the universe, about how Germans were ethnically cleansed. Following World War II.
Yes.
So there was no war going on.
Nope.
Immediately after, they allowed Stalin's to just go in. And
Poland, Czechoslovakia, they just wiped them off the face of the map.
It's insane. And then to know that prior to World War II, there's a book written by a guy, last name Kaufman, I'm blanking on the first name, where he said it's Germany must perish.
Yeah.
They literally wanted to get rid of Anglo-Saxons. And so when you have that context and you're going, whoa, why was I never told about this book, which was published in America, about he wrote a book about how they would have to just annihilate them, how they had to make them infertile, that they couldn't produce. And then you hear at the end of that war, what was done to German-speaking civilians. And that should send a chill down your spine that you don't know it. That is what scares me, that we were never taught it, which means that we were specifically told an angle, and that angle has been protected for a very long time for a reason that must be evil, because lies can only be served to protect evil.
Yes. And you know what? I actually, and I'm going to get put in jail anyway, so I don't care. I'm going to speak my mind because you're here. So I actually realized this very, very early on. So I've always been a big history buff. And when I was 19, 20, 21, I was still traveling the world a little bit. And then I realized that every single country has their own version of World War II history. Every single country is different, even all the ones that we're supposed to agree with. Every country is different. France teaches that, the French resistance overthrew the Nazis and they never really surrendered because the French were still fighting and they won the war even though they surrendered. Poland obviously lost epically to both sides. However, the Polish are taught that it was the Polish men who stood up and blah, blah, blah. The Russian actually version of World War II is the most accurate that can be taught, because they talk about all the major fighting and all the heavy lifting essentially to defeat the Germans was done by them and all the blood was spilled by them. They're kind of correct. But as a young man, when I was reading all these different versions of World War II history and what we were taught, you know what the Germans are taught? Do you know German World War II history if you're in school in Germany? German World War II history is as follows. Some evil people took over our country. Handful of people, wasn't us. Very small handful of people took over our country, and the German resistance movement, along with the Allies, got rid of the evil people. So every country has a different history. And as a young man, I was like, well, this can't all be true. So that's when I started digging into it and understanding World War II history in a way that if I spoke it vocally in public and I had an audience, I'd get put in jail. But by all means, whatever country you're from, please look into this, because it's different in every country for a reason, because it suits their particular narrative. So what's the actual truth? Right. The truth is none of the countries who won teach an accurate version of World War II history. None of the countries who won teach the actual reasons why the war happened. None of the countries who won teach the aftermath and, what happened because the war was won by the people who won. So it's a rabbit hole that you are digging up publicly, and I'll see you in jail.
Well, because it just takes one seed of doubt. And so for me, having watched a documentary, my jaw on the floor, even learning, and I think this is really why the press attacked me, that so many of the people who executed those crimes were then protected by the state of Israel.
Absolutely.
That's already an existential crisis for the allied union between Israel and America. If Americans start waking up and going, wait a second, why would you guys be protecting people who, Solomon Morel, who executed these crimes against Germans, and you refused to extradite him when they actually wanted to prosecute him for his crimes? That doesn't really make sense. We were told, you especially should have a reaction to people that are committing a genocide against people for no reason.
Surely.
Then you go, okay, well, that's weird. And so it takes, for me, that was a major seed that was planted. Why would you not tell me about what happened to the Germans? And then when my German friends were privately thanking me and saying that my videos were going viral in Germany, and that not only were their ancestors slaughtered, murdered, or ethnically cleansed and pushed out, but they where they then passed speech laws so they can never talk about it.
I know, ever.
Think about how scary that is.
They just
Your
put
child being lined up and shot.
Yeah, they just put an 83-year-old woman in jail for questioning World War II history in Germany. I believe she's 83 or 93.
She's been in jail for a long time. She said she'll never repeat the lies.
She's in and out of jail, just like me, and she'll never apologize. And I said this on Twitter, on X. I said, nobody, no judge, no lawyer, no court, nobody should be allowed to prosecute this woman unless they're older than her, because you're taking people who have, it's like your child literally arguing with you about what you saw and how you lived in 1994,
right,
way before they were born. And I was like, well, isn't that wild that this woman was around in 1939, 1944? She was around, she saw things with her own eyes, and people who were born in the 1960s and 70s are sitting behind a desk with a book of what they're supposed to think about these events, saying this woman is wrong. I'm like, isn't that wild? Nobody who's younger than her should be allowed to even sit in that room and tell her that she has to go to jail for having her opinions, because she was literally an eyewitness to things. And yeah, incredibly scary. And you want to talk about, obviously, the people protected by the state of Israel. Look who was protected by the United States. Who was the first CEO essentially of NASA? Werner von Braun, the man who invented the V2 rocket, the man who invented this weapon of death that was obviously hit London a couple of times. He was the best rocket scientist in the world, but because he was a rocket scientist, okay, cool. You come to the United States. Oh, you're fine. Oh, you were just doing your rocket science, but we don't care that you were SS because we know you just needed the funding.
Yeah, and that should make people ask some questions. Like, you're told that you went to go crush them, but then we
took them all. Everyone useful, was suddenly an American citizen. He's buried in the same graveyard as all the American war heroes and presidents, etc. And he's buried in a graveyard, I believe, in Washington D.C. alongside ex-presidents, war heroes, people who fought in the American Civil War. He's given a hero's burial, a hero's funeral, but he was an SS officer, quite literally. And all the photos of him in his SS uniform have been scrubbed from the internet. You can't find them on the internet. And it's like, well, why don't you just admit it? We don't care. He's been dead a long time. Why don't you just admit
because it's
what you did? Yeah,
comes the seat of
Israel, the United States. Why don't you just admit what you did? It's not what you did. The people who did this are long dead. Why don't we just admit what actually happened and talk about real history and talk about what conversations were had and who was flown where and who was protected by who? Everyone's gone now. Everyone's gone. We're their great-grandchildren.
They're still mining that fake history to allow them to do things today. And so part of the reason why, and it breaks my heart because, I'm friends with so many Jewish people that I grew up with, and they have fallen victim to the same trap of BLM in Black America, where they teach you traumas about your history in the classroom. And then you have this fear, oh, slavery is going to come back unless I go out and defend George Floyd dying. I'm like, wait, that doesn't really make sense. And it's the same for Jewish Americans. I'm like, why are you defending the state of Israel when they're killing children? You literally don't have to do that. You're not required to defend George Floyd because you're Black. You're not required to defend the stuff that Theodore Herzl and Bibi Netanyahu were up to simply because you're Jewish. But you see that this sort of psychological,
it's a trigger. It's a trigger that they plant on purpose. Oh, if people start questioning, the Holocaust is going to come back. Yeah. No, I have no interest in the Holocaust coming back. However, I think the state of Israel are war criminals. And I've said this a million times and it gets me in a lot of trouble. But I was actually, I was genuinely with a Jewish friend of mine last night. And we were talking very briefly on the subject because I don't really care to discuss the state of Israel. Everyone knows what I think about them. And I said, well, I think the governments of most countries are war criminals. I think the current administration of the United States are war criminals. I don't personally dislike Americans. You're American. I don't personally dislike people who are from Israel. I'm just telling you, your government are a bunch of criminals, and that's the way it is. And I could say the same about probably 75% of the governments on the planet. That's not a personal hatred for anyone. You're allowed to call out the crimes of governments. Right. And you're not required to defend your government's crimes. Exactly. Taking a quick break. I know we're having a great conversation, but there's a way that you can drink coffee, have great conversations, support this show. And that's if you start drinking 7 Weeks coffee. I'm really excited to tell you guys about that because it aligns perfectly with our mission to rescue lives. Why is it called 7 Weeks coffee? Well, because at 7 weeks of development, a baby is the size of a coffee bean. And it's the first time that a heartbeat is clearly detected on an ultrasound. That's why they donate 10% of every sale to support ultrasound services at pregnancy care centers across
across the country. Now, I want to be clear, the coffee is fantastic. They are super specific about what they are putting into your bodies. The coffee is mold-free, pesticide-free, shade-grown, low acidic, and it's organically farmed. Plus, it comes from the top 1% to 2% of beans in the world. Here's what you need to know. 7 Weeks Coffee is launching an exciting new initiative. It's called Drink More Coffee, Save More Lives, exclusively for my listeners. When you subscribe, you'll save 15% and you'll get a free Drink Coffee, Save Lives tote bag on your first order. Everybody needs a new tote, right? That's not all. Exclusively for my audience, if you use code Candace at checkout, you'll save an additional 10%, giving you a total of 25% savings on your first order. So go to 7weekscoffee.com and use code Candace to save 25% off. Again, that's 7weekscoffee.com, code Candace at checkout for 25% off. And so it's totally insane to see people that feel rushed, and it's because of this psychological trauma and psychology. And this is kind of another thing that triggered the pedophile defenders who are the mainstream media today.
Yes.
When I started digging up Sigmund Freud and realized he was a pedophile, his dad was a pedophile, his grandson was a pedophile. It's a family of pedophiles. And this gets into that broader point about what Alex Jones was saying, is that, they did studies to see that how to create a psychopath.
Yeah.
I now believe they are creating leaders. There's a reason why everyone in the West is a homosexual man.
Yeah.
Like a closeted homosexual, not even closeted. I mean, Zelensky is as gay as you can possibly be.
And they're all from the WEF.
They're all from WEF.
They're all groomed and grown in exactly the same environments.
Stories.
Yeah.
The Brigitte Macron thing, obviously that's a dude.
Skull and bone fraternity.
And it's a dude that, at the very least, the press won't even touch the fact that it's at least statutory rape, right?
It's at least statutory rape and grooming.
And which is not normal, because most 40-year-old women are not attracted to 13-year-old kids, right? And they've tried to lie about the timeline to obscure that. And on top of that, you learn that Macron was raised by his grandma, who also happened to work at a trans clinic, one of the first trans clinics ever to perform surgeries. Yeah. It's like, dude, do you understand that what's happening is they are essentially, and this is Sigmund Freud was a Kabbalist, and they believe in bisexuality. They worship Baphomet. They are trying to use psychology to introduce, and I read this in a book by a Jewish historian, David Bacon, to make their religion the religion of the world, right? Which is a pedophile-centric religion that believes in demons, it believes in child sacrifice, and it is the reason that we have the circumstances that we are in today. And most people won't be able to find this history, and they think Sigmund Freud was like a hero.
You know my favorite video in the entire world? It's not a clip from your podcast, I apologize. My favorite video clip in the whole world is a clip just after I got arrested. Because there is a man who works for the BBC, sitting behind a news desk, telling the world that me and my brother are dangerous sexual criminals. That man's name is Hugh Edwards, who turned out to be a pedophile, and now he's been arrested and confessed and been pled guilty to all this child pornography and having category A sexual images of children. I'm not going to tell you what that means, but please look it up. So it's my favorite clip in the world. There's a literal pedophile, a literal child pornographer sitting behind a news desk telling the world that me and my brother are dangerous sexual criminals. And that will forever be my favorite video. And if that doesn't confirm everything you just said, I don't know what else does. Like you said, they accuse Michael Jackson of being a pedophile because they are pedophiles. The people in these establishments are the most depraved people that exist, and they are all under this cosh of blackmail. They all do these things. Everyone knows they do these things, and they're happy to feed one or two of them to the lions every now and again when they get exposed. But they'll point the finger at, I don't know what they're going to accuse you of next. A black American woman. It's much harder than a man like...
It's getting tricky. They're trying a lot of stuff.
A man like me with a complicated sexual past, it's easy to just say, oh, well, no, he was a rapist. Or he was this. And men are much easier to attack. I don't know what they're going to attack you with. Yeah. But when criminal charges or whatever are launched against you, I'll be the first to defend you because I will know that they're bull.
And they're looking. Yeah. I mean, they're clawing through everything. And my person that works with me told me that he believes they have like a PI on me, like a private investigator, just like crawling through my life. And I'm going, this is insane. It's because I'm waking people up to the fact that pedophiles are in power. Yes. They're literally in power. And that is intentional because then they can be controlled while they are in power. And they are also exhibiting signs of a psychopathology that lets them know that they will do harm to the masses and feel nothing because they were themselves, many of them raped when they were children. Yep. It is not a coincidence that Justin Trudeau is gay. Obama, gay. Zelensky, gay. Emmanuel Macron, gay and married to a trans man who molested him when he was a child. And that despite the overwhelming evidence, for me, the litmus test now is like Brigitte Macron. I'm like, if you want to figure out who is a fraud in media, there's no way to read that 6-part series and go through it and come out of it being like, no, totally legit. Like these are just rumors. It's like one picture of yourself in your first 30 years of living, please. And they
show me her brother.
Where's your brother?
Where is
Jean
he?
Michel.
I'll show you my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's your brother?
Yeah.
It's actually honestly that simple. And that's the crazy thing. It would be so easy to dismiss this. It would be so easy to make it go away and then just sue you for everything you have. It would be the easiest thing in the world if it weren't true.
Right. And it is true. And that is very terrifying. And part of it, I think that is part of the psychology is I think it's very scary for people to come to terms with the fact that everything's an illusion, that they have been always invested in yellow journalism, that Sigmund Freud was the father of treating people, like learning how to gaslight people. Like, all these women were saying that they were being raped. And he said, I'm going to create psychoanalysis and tell these women that, no, they're just attracted to their dads. No, they were being raped when they were 7 years old, because that's what you do when you worship the Kabbalah, right? And then he was like, oh my gosh, this can work. Then that became propaganda. Like whenever somebody got caught doing something or somebody was about to come out and say something, they would diagnose that person as either insane, like they're totally insane, they're on drugs. And then they'd have their friends in the press create this propaganda and people believe it. They go after a Kanye, they go after a Tristan Tate and Andrew Tate because they've realized the voices that cannot be controlled have to be shut up. Some people killed.
Do you think they've overplayed their hand?
I do.
I think, I have to give credit to my brother. He was on a podcast with Patrick Bet-David before we went to jail when Andrew was first canceled. And Andrew said, I am so popular. I could stream and post anywhere. I could do live videos of me just talking on Pornhub.com and my fans will watch me. They can't cancel me. And they've really messed up by canceling me because I've put the crack in the dam is now going to break. And when Andrew said that, I mean, of course, I believed in him and I knew he was very famous. I knew he had a big fan base, but I think the cancellation and especially the false charges and the false accusations, I think they really have overplayed their hand because now they can't stop this cascade of truth, of people speaking their minds. Even if people are wrong, they can no longer stop it. The tactics that they had 5 or 6 years ago would have hurt me and would have hurt you if they had played the hands in. However, now with Elon owning X and Chris over at Rumble and all these various platforms, the youth are smart enough to find the people they want to listen to wherever they stream and wherever they are. So yeah, I think they really have overplayed their hand.
And I think a little bit of it is Don's timing.
But it's the only, and it's the only trick they know though. So what are they going to do next? Start shooting us?
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know.
That's it. I think that is their methods based on this book that I was reading that was banned in America in the 60s called Hollywood Babylon. Is like they would just kill artists, either say they were drug addicts, commit them, or kill them. And once anybody was in their Hollywood cult and woke up to what was going on, and to see that this is the same strategy that they've been employing, like since the 1920s in America, they're employing the exact same strategies, like trying to convince people they're either insane or they mysteriously died of a drug overdose. And don't ask any further questions because here's some stuff we're going to tell you about, that will just distract you because there's so many headlines. And I think that people are very much awake to it. I think the success of my show, Independent, shows that they're not buying the smear attacks. You guys continue to be extremely successful, despite the fact I think you're a threat. And giving this information to people and telling them what books they should read so they can actually learn the real history. And like, why is Sigmund Freud taught to me as a hero in school when he was a pedophile? Right, a homosexual pedophile, just like all of the elites. What was the Weimar Republic that you're speaking about? Why are we being lied to about World War II? What else happened at World War II? Why were there, prostitution rings and children who were being sexualized in this republic? And I think that when people start looking and they realize, hey, this kind of looks a lot like what's happening right now in the West, they will realize that we're fighting true evil. But I think it's biblical, and I want to talk to you about your faith.
Go ahead. I know I'm ready for this.
My theory,
you've been bullying my brother, I hope.
I'm going to.
Good.
But my theory is that part of the reason that there are so many wars is because they're destroying history. Right? They're destroying old relics. You don't know where you come from. The fact that I can't go back more than a couple of generations because I'm a Black American. It's the largest war is the largest human trafficking operation in the world. But the people that are behind these wars know exactly, they can trace their family lineage back to the Bible,
Yes.
right? And so they're confusing everybody else because there's a wisdom that comes with ancestry. The Bible tells us who and what these tribes were. If you don't know what your tribe is, it allows them to have a tremendous amount of power over you. You don't realize they're keeping their tribe intact while they're essentially using multicultural and war and open borders to just kind of deplete everybody else's, which I think is fascinating. And then when I started studying more about like the Kabbalah and how this came from Babylon, and we're kind of seeing the same thing happen right now. Like Hollywood has become Babylon. It's these false idols, the things that are happening. It really tethered me to my Christianity. Really brought me back to okay, this is and will forever be a holy war. And that's why you insist on everybody being an atheist, even though you believe in child sacrifice.
Exactly.
You believe in the Bible. So
I admit, I was shamefully thought I was an atheist for a long time.
Me too.
And, God, I can't even, if I could talk to my younger self and probably punch him in the face, I would. But yeah, everything that's happening in the world, even, I am labeled agent of Russian disinformation by the Romanian government. Oh, perfect. Wonderful. And my crime was speaking to people who came across the border from Ukraine. That's it. On Instagram, asking them questions live on Instagram. That's why I was labeled an agent of Russian disinformation. So these people were all paid actresses. A lot of them knew exactly what was happening and why they were fleeing to Romania. A lot of people knew the reasons. But again, child trafficking, human trafficking, all the orphanages in Ukraine are empty. Why? Where have the kids gone? This is something that people need to look into. I'm not sure if you looked into it yourself. Everyone's worried about, the men are dying and 500,000 Ukrainians have lost their lives and it's a war that can't be won against the Russian war machine, etc. Well, Russia have moved in and taken the territories they've taken, tried to reestablish them. Obviously, Russian Orthodox Christianity is legal in the places that they've taken. Look into, and I'm not going to speak too much on the topic because I'm on the border of Ukraine, and it's a sensitive subject in this part of the world. But look into the orphanages of Ukraine. Look into the orphanages that were run by the church. They took care of all these kids. Where have all the kids gone? Now the church is being banned. Now their voices are being silenced. It's human trafficking all over again, and that's why they will accuse people like me and Andrew of human trafficking. Some bimbo who was here for 4 days made some story up, and they'll push it and push it and push it and push it. And no one looks into what's happening with every war zone on the planet. The kids go missing. And
that's absolutely terrifying. And then when you add to that, and that's why I've been giving people the actual books and the resources, and I'm glad that you brought up NASA and the satanic origins. Like, I'm so the moon landing didn't happen, get out of my face. It's so stupid. It's totally a psychological operation because they just keep evaporating money saying it's going to NASA and nobody knows what's going. It's just a black budget. And it also got people to invest in the idea of worshiping man and science over worshiping
I love what you said recently. I've left the cult of science.
I'm glad you loved it because the media said that I was the dumbest person in the entire world. And that's how I knew I was smart.
No, I loved it. Yeah, exactly. When the media
that's how I knew I was onto it.
Yeah, when the media says something, whenever the media say the opposite is usually the truth. That's my. But when you said I've left the cult of science, I'd never thought of it that way because I used to be one of these nerds, atheists. Science is the be all and end all. It explains everything. I've left the cult of science as well. Unless I've studied in a certain field and I understand that certain field as well as the scientists who are telling me things do, then I'm not going to take your word for it anymore. It's as simple as that. And you made the comment about the flat earth, and there's a bunch of people on the internet who are going to love me talking about this. But it's not about flat earth or not flat earth. No one understood the comment you made.
No, they understood it.
Yeah. Well, they tried to spin it. But your point is, I'm not taking your word for anything anymore. And I completely agree with that. I mean, I hold a bunch of beliefs, and I believe in obviously a lot of what scientists have discovered over the years. And there's good scientists and there's bad scientists. There's the COVID vaccine, and there's Jonas Salk with his polio vaccine, which is maybe a slightly more moral than we go down this rabbit hole if you like, slightly a more moral cause than today's COVID vaccine. And I'll pick and choose what I believe in, but I'm not taking your word for it.
Right.
And that's the way to do it.
Because everything I've realized about science has led to, it's so funny, people don't believe in religion. They think, witches and the whole concept of people, curses and spells and all of this stuff is reserved for Harry Potter. And then I say to them, oh, you don't believe in potions? What do you think vaccines are?
Yeah.
You're being poisoned. What do you think alcohol is? Obviously, all of this stuff is real. You just don't realize that they are battling for your spirit. And I believe that the vaccines that are being introduced, because that was my huge awakening. Thank God I was vax injured when I was 20, because then I was suddenly like, why did I get this vaccine? was like a weird fee. I just like, they did a commercial, said I needed it. Then I looked into the statistics, and the statistics were complete nonsense.
Yeah.
There was zero fear that anything was going to happen to me for this Gardasil vaccine. Next thing I know, I'm like having a seizure on the floor.
Yeah.
And then right then I said, okay, I'm all done with like, trust the science, trust the doctors. Kind of feels ridiculous to think that your baby's born wrong and science can fix them.
Immediately
when they come
needs inoculation.
God got this wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And people believe this because they've intentionally made us atheistic in this via the school system.
Yep.
The people, again, they worship the Kabbalah, created the idea of rationalism, the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was not the Enlightenment. It was the darkening.
Yes,
okay? It's the darkening of humanity. People now don't know where they come from. They think they derive from apes because, I don't know, I guess Charles Darwin said so. Who knows? But now suddenly they are invested in man.
And in the age that was completely ruled by God and religion is now the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages. So the Dark Ages and the Enlightenment. You're right. They did a bait and switch there. They did a bait and switch on everything.
Mm-hmm. And what were those the Dark Ages? They were Christian.
Yes, the Christian.
It's always been a holy war. Everything I realized when I go and revisit it in school that I was lied about. I was lied about Christianity. They're essentially making you hate Christians and Catholics without you even recognizing they're doing it. Lied to about the Spanish Inquisition. Lied to about the Enlightening. Like always told that like at every turn, the Catholics and the Christians were doing something wrong. And
colonizers. Colonizers.
Yeah.
That's the famous one. You know, they always joke. They say, you know, you could be, you know, black pride, Mexican pride, but you can't have white pride. You can't be proud to be white. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh, well, white people did this and white people did that. And I'm like, well, sorry, Mexicans. I love you, all my Mexican fans, but you were literally, before the Christians got there, committing human sacrifice to make sure that the sun would rise. So shut the up about evil things that you think white people did for a second, because I could take any culture anywhere in the world and give it the same PR spin that the media use against the white people and the Europeans and make your cultures look like savage, backwards nonsense, which a lot of it genuinely was. No offense to my Mexican fans.
100% true. Okay, I hate to interrupt again, but I have to tell you guys about American financing. I know the stress, the economic stress that so many people are going through right now, feeling like you are constantly having to put your expenses on a credit card, which obviously only increases the stress because you're trying to find a way out of the never-ending cycle of debt. Well, here's something you can do. You can call my friends at American Financing. They're helping people just like you turn things around by using the equity in their homes to pay off high-interest debt. They understand what you're going through, and they talk to people in your position every single day. American Financing is saving their borrowers an average of $854 a month, which when you total it comes to effectively a $10,000 a year raise. And if you want to get started, you may not even have to pay next month's mortgage payment if you call them today. There is no better time than right now to turn your situation around. So call 800-795-1210. That's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. It's funny because in talking about that cult of science too, I was reading C.S. Lewis's Abolition of Man.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about this idea of like an ape in trousers. This is what we're creating right now in society. They're convinced they're intelligent. They're the dumbest people you could ever speak to because they're getting degrees and they're being inoculated with propaganda, and they trust the science so much that if the science told them not to eat food, they'd all die of starvation.
Yes.
Right? Because like, oh, well, look, a scientist, he went to school. He knows that I shouldn't be eating food at all anymore. And they would all die. There's no gut or God instinct, as I like to call it. There's no God instinct anymore because they have just been purposefully polluting people. But I think about that now when I see these people speaking about their data and where they got their degrees from. I'm like, you are an ape.
Oh, the studies. Andrew mentions this. Oh, the studies show. The studies. My father used to say you could buy an education, but you can't buy intellect. My brother and we left school when we were 15 years old. That's it. We're self-made multimillionaires. So, and I now have lots of people who work for me who have university degrees. However, I'm sick of people waving these pieces of paper around thinking they're somehow better than me. I don't care about your piece of paper that says you're $100,000 in debt. And I don't care how much you trust the studies. I don't care how much you trust the data. Did you collect it yourself? Did you collect it with me? No? Then I don't give a shit. It's very, very simple because the studies show the vaccine is safe and effective and everyone's fine. My mother quite literally had a heart attack in a year and a half ago. 7-8 months ago. And I blame the COVID vaccine. She's a healthy woman. She exercises. 9 months before that, she had 2 doses of this poison because other family members convinced her to do it, even though I told her, don't never take this stuff. And she had a heart attack because of this. And, you know, the studies show it's safe and effective. And then she went to the hospital and the doctors told her, you'll love this. It wasn't because of the vaccine. My mom's like, oh, it wasn't because of the vaccine. The doctor said so. Oh, the doctor who told you to take the vaccine. Well, that's funny, isn't it? And that's, I guess, airing my dirty laundry a little bit with these arguments I've had with my mother. But it's important for people to know. I want to tell the world that this happened, because you have to stand up to people who will wave studies and data and science in your face and try and tell you that this is the way to do things because X, Y, and Z said so.
Yeah.
Who wrote the study? Do I know him? What kind of person is he? You know, what's his agenda? What's he invested in? Where's his money? What banks does he use? You tell me these things and I'll listen to your study.
Yeah. And it's so funny because they really do believe in themselves. It's like elite academic class of people who never accomplished really anything other than speaking, right? Like, you're just like, oh yeah, I'm so smart and I can read this. And it's like, hey, great, you can't survive. You literally can't survive.
Yeah.
So the fact that you and I are in the same topic of conversation and that I've made it from the wrong side of the tracks and you had a cushiony life provided for you and we're in the same room should automatically imply to you that I'm actually smarter than you, right? Like, I didn't have to do the dweeb thing and get 27 degrees to convince myself of my intelligence. The fact that we made it from nothing to where you are in the same conversation should let you know that we're smarter than you.
There's a saying I like, and it's actually from, take me to jail. It's from a street pimp called Pimpin' Ken. And he once said, if you knew better, you'd do better. And I think about that all the time because these people with 1,000 Twitter followers, you know, PhD in their name, broke, no money, small house, car, are quick to trash you and they're quick to trash me online. I'm like, if you knew better, you'd do better. Like, it's a stupid saying from the streets, from the hood, but I'm like, I don't want to listen to you. You can't pay your bills and you're sitting there waving your piece of paper at me and I'm perfectly comfortable and all my kids are fed and happy and everyone, my mother flies on private jets. What are you telling me about your education for?
Right.
Like, why don't you go and take that education and wave it at somebody who's going to give you some money, who's going to make your life better? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really do love that saying and I kind of live by it. So when people are barking at me, I'm just like, I don't care what you think you know.
Yeah.
Because you haven't applied it at all. And it's obviously not useful in the real world because you are where you are and I am where I am.
Well, they've recreated, and it's Machiavellian, but I very much believe that we're still seeing a slave plantation. Like, these people are slaves.
I agree.
Their minds have been enslaved. Imagine being able to train a bunch of slaves to enslave themselves and to pay you $100,000 for the pleasure of enslaving them.
Yeah.
That's where we're at now.
And then
that's where we're at now.
Then they'll point at you and tell you you're a slave who never left the plantation because you are sensible and you say things that are smart. They're literally all programmed to take its crabs in a bucket. You're the crab who's crawling out of the bucket and all these idiots are trying to pull you back in. So yeah, it is a slave plantation. This is what Andrew always talks about, escaping the matrix. The matrix, I mean, you can call it the deep state, you can call it the matrix, you can call it anything you like. There's all different, there's many different terminologies for this, but when you were a slave, you got a house to live in and you got food to eat and you had to do your work. Now you do your work, they give you money and you use that to buy food in the house you live in. Mm-hmm. Not much has actually changed and you need these days monumental wealth or influence or success to even rise above the plane and look down on what's actually happening. When you're trapped inside of it, you can't see it, which is why it's very easy to point at people like you and to point at people like me and just call us sex traffickers, criminals, you know, Uncle Toms, all the crap that they throw at you because, you know, actually doing the work and applying themselves to get to the point where they can see things from your perspective is way too difficult. They'd love it if they could. Mm-hmm.
And so much of it it's about having the confidence to keep going. And they do try to break people because they're all about psychology. It's like, how do we break somebody psychologically into just getting into line? And I was speaking about with your brother, just that CIA study where they wanted to see if they could convince somebody literally not to believe their own eyes. If enough people said that, something that wasn't there, right? Would you suddenly pretend that you saw it too, right? And they've determined, yes, that is how peer pressure works. And if everybody just tells you something and even your own eyes are saying, man, that's really not a woman. That's a dude in a dress.
Yes.
But the peer pressure, the fear of being pushed out, not being welcomed into polite society. It's like, homie, polite society is being run by a bunch of homosexual pedophiles. I don't want to be part of that society.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
I'd rather be in jail.
Friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Cut me off. Put me in jail. Yeah. It's fine. I'm safe in jail. Yeah. You know?
And that's my position, I think, as a parent. Like, if you don't have a bottom line, and that's what we're seeing right now, if you can be essentially curated or essentially forced into supporting pedophilia, that's where we're at right now. It's like, I'm like, okay, I supported this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I got the vaccine, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what about pedophilia? Like, are you going to have a backbone and stand up when you recognize that pedophilia is going on? And the answer for so many people is no. I'm going to wait for somebody else to do it.
Well, look at the U.S. southern border. Again, like with Ukraine, where are the kids? All separated from their parents. I mean, there was God, it hurts to even say it. There was a girl who was found 11, 12 years old. She had like 9 different DNA samples inside of her when she came across the southern border. It's like, it's not about refugees and migrants trying to make a better life. They're literally sex trafficking kids. The guy who made the movie, The Sound of Freedom, is a very good friend of mine. I actually met him in this hotel very recently. And they're trying to hit him with charges now. They're trying to hit him with charges. And the people who the movie is about, the people who were trying to rescue kids in Southern America, they're now getting hit with charges. Isn't it wild that these people are fighting the good fight? And I think I'm fighting the good fight. What if I meet people occasionally online? No one in the real world has anything bad to say to me. They're like, yeah, but I know your views and you're a misogynist and you're this, you're that. I say, tell me something I've said that's offended you.
They can't.
Tell me, Tristan Tate, tell me something I've said that's offended you. And they can't do it. But yeah, I'm just trying to open people's eyes and live a good, righteous life, good Christian life.
Yeah, it's very difficult, but I do think that, like we've said, that something has shifted now, and I think people are starting to pay attention, and they're realizing is we're inching ever closer. Like, we're very close to losing the Western world. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's important that everybody does the research. And like I said, that book Chaos really woke me up to what was happening, because even the theory that I thought was the craziest that Alex Jones had, that they're creating school shooters, then became obviously plausible once I read this about the programs which they created. They're literally creating serial killers. They've done it in the past. Like, this is just a fact. That's why I said to everyone, it's required to read it. You must read it to understand that they have pulled off hoaxes, that they are intentionally trying to train people to be serial killers, that they experimented with LSD to try to figure out if they could implant false memories into somebody's mind. They've done all of these things. And then you realize Alex Jones is telling you the truth. You realize that Kanye is an effing hero for surviving Hollywood.
I'd love to talk to him one day.
Absolutely, I'll make it happen. But for surviving Hollywood, they tried to MK Ultra him. They literally, in this book, describe how they successfully, the CIA doctors were able to successfully give people mental disorders, right? So that makes you look at Britney Spears different, makes you look at Kanye West different. So essentially, if a celebrity wakes up and sort of realizes when they say they're going in for exhaustion, it means that they are about to inject them, and they can give them disorders.
You know, when I knew psychology was bullshit, I don't remember where I read this, but there was a study done where they take 2 or 3 random people and put them into a room, a waiting room, say a doctor's waiting room, with 15 trained actors. And every 2.5 minutes, a beep would go off, beep, and every actor would stand up for a second and sit down. And that'd be it. Every 2.5 minutes, beep. The actors would stand up and sit down. And the people who were placed in the room would look around and not really know what's going on. And eventually, after 3, 4, 5 beeps, they'd start doing it. They'd copy everyone else. They'd beep, they'd stand up, and they'd sit down. And very few people in this study, very few people will just sit down the whole time and think, what the f are these people doing? And I knew psychology was bullshit when I read this study and saw that the people who didn't stand up and sit down were labeled psychopaths. These people are psychopaths because the environment didn't affect them or whatever. I'm like, psychopaths? I'm not standing up for a beep ever. You can call me a psychopath all you like. And I think it's very scary, psychologists, the way they can label you something dangerous and suddenly say, you need to take this drug, you need to take this medication.
For COVID, they said people that are not prone to trusting the vaccine are psychopaths.
Psychopaths. There we go.
I'm a psychopath. I don't want to tell you guys, I'm a total psychopath.
I'll own it. But also, I love this. I love that everyone's different. You're different from me. George is different from Andrew. I love that everyone's different. And there is a sliding scale, certainly, of personality types, emotionality. Some people cry at movies. I don't cry at movies. But when you take us and put us on that scale of emotionality, let's say the person who cries at movies and me who doesn't, right? Where along this scale do you say, okay, psychopath, okay, manic depressive, drugs, you know? Can't we just accept that everyone's different?
No.
And no, we can't.
We can't.
No. And some people are emotionally cold and some people wear their heart on their sleeve, as we say in the United Kingdom. Can't we just accept that without making this sliding scale and saying, well, once you pass this certain point that this guy with this PhD says you need to be medicated for being a psychopath. And once you pass this certain point, you have to be medicated for being a manic depressive. And I'm not saying that psychological disorders aren't real, and I'm not saying they don't exist. What I'm saying is I will never sit in a room with any of these motherfuckers and give them the opportunity to put me on that scale scale and tell me that I need to take X drug or Y drug because of Y. My life's fine. If you knew better, you'd do better, Mr. Psychologist. You're broke. I'm not interested in listening to you and having you put me on your scale and tell me I need to take this drug because I'm a psychopath or I'm a manic depressive or whatever you want to label me. Can't we just accept that people are different? It's fine.
I think
you probably cry at movies more than I do. I don't know if you do.
Actually, that's the only time I cry. It's so weird.
Well, there we go.
Literally only.
You know, Candace, I think you might be a manic depressive.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I hold it all.
Have you tried Prozac?
I'm like, this is the reality. Is that they're trying to essentially get everybody on drugs for this reason because they're creating the disorders. They're not solving them.
I know.
And so they're constantly diagnosing your kid's hyper. Oh yeah, well, how weird if he wasn't hyper. He's 4 years old. He should be wanting to jump off of walls. Well, he won't pay attention in math class. What little boy wants to sit down and open a book and as opposed to going outside and screaming and running around with a sword?
Exactly.
And so they present everything as disorder so that they can give you the drugs that will eventually give you the disorder that you think that you're avoiding. Like they're drugging children now for being excited, drugging women for being sad, drugging people for experiencing human emotion, by the way.
Yes.
Do you have an emotion? You need a pill.
Yeah.
You said you were anxious? Yeah, I'm anxious. I have tests tomorrow. Well, there's a pill for that. That will help. It's like, no, I don't need a pill. Like I gotta learn how to deal with this human emotion.
I need them to stop trying to put me in jail. That's what I need. I don't need anxiety medication. I need them to stop trying to lock me up.
Right, exactly. It's the external factor matters. Yeah. I don't need to there's something wrong with me. Yeah. Actually, there was something wrong with me if I didn't feel that way. About them constantly trying to lock me up.
You know, I refuse, people know this about me, I refuse to take any pills for anything.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I can't sleep, no sleeping pills.
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of surgeries and reconstructive surgeries on my arm. That my shoulder hurts, no pain pills. I like to know how much it hurts so I know how injured it is, No, I don't take pills for anything ever. Supplements are different, vitamin C.
Yeah, I take melatonin if I can't sleep.
But however, I don't take pills because I just don't like it. I don't like the idea of needing to convince my mind that reality isn't real. If my hand hurts, that's reality, right? A painkiller is fake. I think my hand doesn't hurt, but it should, and it does. Yeah, and nowadays everyone's looking for the quick fix. Everyone's looking for the quick fix. So it's very easy, especially when your life's a mess, when your life isn't in order, to lean on the mental health crutch. And I'm not saying mental health problems don't exist, because they very much do, but it's very easy to be special. It's very easy to be told that, well, you've got depression, or you're a manic depressive. It's fine. Okay, fine. Well, my life, everything's falling apart around me. It's fine. Oh, but I'm a manic depressive. That makes me unique. That makes me special. I see people type the worst on the internet. And what I hate is the term survivor for things that can't kill you. I don't like that term being used for things shark attack survivor, I'll give you. Mental health survivor? What the does that even mean? You've been sad before? Well, me too. Like I can't stand it. And it's a very easy way to get the quick fix, to make you feel special, to make you feel like nothing is your fault, to absolve yourself of all responsibilities. Instead of absolving yourself through your sins through our Lord Jesus Christ, you can, absolve yourself of your sins and your failures through mental health.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason that the clip of me telling a college kid, life's tough, get a helmet. I mean, that's what the whole society needs. I'm sad. Okay, life's tough, get a helmet, and that's kind of the way that I was raised, is that I wasn't raised within snowflake culture. When you have to survive, you're not treated like you're a special snowflake with, bumpers and, oh my gosh, you don't want to run into anything. And people should be conditioned that way because it wakes you up to the reality of the world.
That's all I teach people.
That, to be alive is to suffer. You're going to have moments of elation. You're going to have moments of suffering. And unfortunately, so many people are turning to therapy and psychologists, which trap them in this cycle of constantly thinking about the thing that makes them sad. It's like, no, that's not healthy. Move on in your life. Literally, you don't need to sit down in a chair and constantly go over this thing. Oh, he cheated on me. It's like, move on. You just gotta move on from that bad thing that happened. Like, that pain is a part of your growth. It's a part of your experience, and you gotta keep moving on. All right, guys, I have to tell you about Native Path, because finding an honest doctor who isn't following in the footsteps of Big Pharma feels impossible. I've been telling you guys this forever. I am so done with Big Pharma. And that's the reason why millions of men and women have turned to Native Path's vast selection of high-quality nutrition products. Native Path was created by a Texas doctor of physical therapy who discovered how poor nutrition was linked to many of the health issues his patients were dealing with on a daily basis. Their original collagen peptides included a unique protein that naturally declines with age and is proven to significantly increase bone strength and soothe joint pain. It minimizes wrinkles and cellulite, enhances hair follicle thickness, and even reverses nail damage, with users reporting results in as little as 2 weeks. As a partner of the show, Native Path is offering my listeners up to 45% off his bone, joint, and ligament restoring formula at nativepath.sale/Candace. The discount will be auto-applied. Native Path has thousands of 5-star reviews and over 4 million jars sold. Every order comes with 365 365-day money-back guarantee, so there is no risk to try it out. So try it today. Listeners can visit nativepath.sale/Candace to get up to 45% off while supplies last. Again, that's nativepath.sale/Candace. I want to ask you, Tristan, because I know that you're an avid reader.
Yes.
What are some books that you recommend? Because I've been kind of introducing a lot of books to my audience, and I feel like you would have a lot.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It depends if you're talking fiction or nonfiction. So reading as a way of escapism. Like I like stories. I like fictional novels because you learn a lot from them. I would say that ignore all the movies; they're all gay. But everyone knows the story of the Three Musketeers. You know that's a 50-hour read if you read that book.
No,
it's a extremely long and incredible book. And what you learn from that, although that these people were fictional characters, is the real love that men can platonically have for other men. The love that you have for your friends in the way that they'll die for each other. I mean, I've seen, don't even get me started, but I've seen Netflix adaptations on conspiracy theories that Abe Lincoln was gay. Why? Because he wrote in his letters, I love you with all my heart to a friend of his. But when you read this book, written in the 1850s in France, which is its original language, about these 3-4 men who really love each other and they talk to each other in this way, you learn how male friendship can be strong and beautiful without society trying to tell you it's gay, because back then there was no gay agenda trying to make everything gay.
Right.
The new Three Musketeers movie, I watched it in French, and they make one of the characters gay. I turned off.
Everything has to be gay now.
No, but even just there's a 20-second clip at the bar where he says he's bisexual, which adds nothing to the story, and I turned the movie off halfway through. It infuriated me because the book is so good. So yeah, I like classical novels. I like The Three Musketeers, The Count of Monte Cristo. Those are both Alexander Dumas. The original Dracula novel.
It's so funny. I was just reading about that novel, and I have it on my list to buy.
Yeah, but I have a copy that was the one of when it was launched in America. They sent 13 copies of it over in 1899, and they were on display in bookstores for people to flip through to see if the novel was going to be a success. I have one of those 1899 copies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's
fascinating.
Amazing. And it's got love letters in it to people who are probably long since dead, who have dedicated and gifted the book to people in pencil.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool. So I'm a book collector as well. I like first editions.
And history is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they changed so many books and editions, and like to be able to actually hold the original.
Get the original novels. Yeah.
Yeah.
The History of Magic. I'm gonna kick myself because I've forgotten the author, but The History of Magic was recommended by a good friend of mine. Very small Twitter account, a man who calls himself the Gentleman Mystic, but he's a very interesting guy. He recommended that book. I finished that a few weeks ago. Can't remember the author. Not a guy who's written anything else I've read. But yeah, fictional novels are great. And if you're a man, I mean, I like the James Bond novels by Ian Fleming.
Of course you all.
Super cool. And I get that you maybe wouldn't like him as much as I would, but if you're a young man, read it. You know? Read it.
Men love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons in there, a lot of meaningful quotes, a lot of meaningful passages, and a lot of lessons in there about how to be a man, how to man up. So there's a lot of reality in fiction, and there's a lot that the authors are trying to tell us about the real world, even through their fictional stories. So those would be my recommendations. Anything by Ian Fleming, anything by Alexander Dumas, you can't go wrong.
Okay, so I want to ask you as a final question about the state of masculinity. And it's a question that I have because you hear this debate on what is true masculinity. And some people think it's just, a man getting a job and, I guess that would be a man having a job, getting married, or maybe it's just a man climbing the Wall Street ladder and working for Goldman Sachs and earning tons of money. And it's interesting because to see you guys get attacked for something that I think is really important, which is traditional masculinity, like can you fight, can you defend your family, is something that I think it should supersede, honestly, everything. Because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to survival. And whether or not you can, wear a suit and do some trading on Wall Street is not going to save your family when war comes, because war is always inevitable. It's never ending. And so I want you just taking a look at the political sphere of men that have garnered followings.
Yes.
What's your opinion of them? What is and their opinions, and why do you think men follow them? Who are those people?
I think a lot of them are platformed on purpose. I think that, and I don't care. Put me in jail. I think that Mr. Beast is platformed on purpose for his friend to be transgender on purpose, for kids to ask questions about things they shouldn't even know about on purpose to their parents who on purpose are brainwashed by the universities to tell them that Chris is a transgender and it's great on purpose. I think this is all on purpose.
Yeah, he's the biggest YouTuber of all time by like way too much.
Yeah, your game shows are interesting enough, but like who really gives a So, it's all on purpose. So this is why people flock to them, because they're platformed. I'm not going to say that any of these people have the X factor, have anything special. Andrew, people flocked to him because of what he said, because we're awakening traditional masculine essence, I guess, in young men. And what I would say masculinity is, to get back to your question, is very simple. I think it's the mastery of your own emotions and the necessity and the desire to do what's needed to be done, even if it goes against your instincts. So that's all that masculinity is. Again, this, I'm cutting back to what I said 45 minutes ago. The willingness to fight is more important than the ability to fight. You would rather have an untrained man who can't fight be happy to go downstairs and face the burglars with his wife upstairs than a jiu-jitsu expert who his pants. You know, it's the ability to override reason and say, I need to do this because I need to do this. There was a time when I was in prison and my lawyers had spoken to Andrew on the phone. I famously didn't make a single phone call throughout my entire...
a single phone call?
Not a single phone call. Nope.
Wow, you really are built different.
I am built different. And there was a conversation with my lawyers about, well, this isn't really about Tristan. He's in jail for being your brother. It's not really about him that much. They know this is bullshit. So what we're going to do is we're going to push for a release of Tristan, and we think we'll be able to get that done, and then we'll push for your release later. And when I heard that, I was furious. So natural human emotion and reasoning for myself, self-preservation, is I want to get out of jail, naturally. And I did want to get out of jail. But I said to the officer in charge, I'm not going to say his name, but it's a guy who I spoke to while I was in jail. He was the officer. I said, look, I like you, and you're my favorite police officer that's here. So if they try to take me out of here without Andrew, you're the one I'm going to punch. I'm going to punch you and get assaulting a police officer and get thrown back in here. But I'm not going to hit you that hard, but I'm warning you in advance because I like you. You're the one I'm going to strike. So good luck taking me out of jail. I'm happy to override my natural instincts for survival, self-preservation, to do the things that I think need to be done for the people I care about and for the people I love. And I think that's what masculinity is. Not everyone needs to be a 6'4", 240-pound, muscular-bound kickboxer who's handsome and charming and rich and dresses well. But that's not what masculinity is. It's not, it's belittled by people like Piers Morgan saying, oh, Andrew, you just stick a cigar in your mouth and pump up your muscles and think that's what... No. Masculinity is much, much more than just that. That speaks to the fact that I can do the things I need to do to be a masculine man. However, I would much rather be willing than capable. If I could switch willingness, if I had to choose willingness or capability, I choose willingness every single time.
It's amazing. I think I genuinely think that the relationship between your brother is beautiful, and it's something that needs to be spoken about. And I'm just grateful that people are trusting me to introduce them to people that, the media have essentially tried to take out. I've always been clear about the fact that obviously, especially now as a Christian, and I know that I've spoken to you guys, but I don't support pornography. That was the thing. It's like, well, you're speaking to, they had history and they had webcams. I'm like, yeah, I'm aware of their history.
Of course.
And what people first and foremost don't understand is it's very easy for people who had very easy lives to say what they would or could not get involved in at any times. And I'm like, that's very easy. But also the people that you think are evil, like this person, I will tell you, when everything was going down with me, you and Andrew, from the second it was happening, we're like, we have your back 100%.
We always will.
And the people that you would have thought would have said nothing because you've been nothing but great to them. And the example, obviously, that I've spoken about multiple times is Andrew Clavin, great colleague, great friend to him, threw me under the bus in 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
And so if that is the embodiment of masculinity to you, because he has a podcast and speaks and says about topics you care about, then I would trade it. I will go with my instincts of the people that I believe have the capacity to do tremendous good, even if their backgrounds are not squeaky clean, over the people who have squeaky clean backgrounds and I believe have a potential to do real evil in this world.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So grateful to have you. And you guys, you obviously know where to follow the podcast, but you should really go listen and follow more. And if you have questions, I can't wait to read your comments, but we're going to keep having conversations on the show with every person that we're not allowed to speak to so that you can make up your mind, because you don't need the media to make up your mind for you. I'll see you guys next time.